Welcome to the Meditation Podcast. You can find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. Also on BitChute and YouTube, you'll find the links to the podcast description. And I've got 4 other podcasts: The Learn Polish, The Awakening, Exposing Fraud and Corruption, and also the Crypto Podcast and the Speaking Podcast, as well as being a podcast coach. You'll find everything on bio.link/podcaster. And if you think I'm doing a lot of things, this mind tamer that I've got on my show, not only was she generous enough to give me my very first episode of the Meditation Podcast, which is still #1. And that doesn't mean anything in podcasting just because you've got a show that the first episode stays at #1, because I've got 5 podcasts. But she's given me a load of different meditations, as well as being on the show, as well as being on my speaking podcast on numerous occasions, giving fantastic advice. So she's a speaker, she's a coach, she's a meditation Jedi. She's an author. She's actually even a singer that I learned later on, because she's on Spotify, and a fantastic one at that. She's a professor. There's probably a million other things. Please welcome back Ambika Devi.
Roy, thank you. You are a dear friend, and I am blown away that our first show is still, I can't even hardly say it, that it's still #1. That's, I don't even have an adjective for that. But wow, it's an honor. It's an absolute honor to be here and to share the truth about meditation with you today.
No, I'm looking forward. Well, I mean, I always enjoy our conversation.
Because I know you like the truth.
Exactly. And I mean, like, just for the listeners, obviously you've been on the show a few times and you've been on the other show, but we're good friends. So we stay in contact a lot, and, you know, we kind of know what's going on in each other's lives. But I mean, yeah, I suppose the others don't. So I mentioned all the different things you're doing, but you might just kind of let people know that don't know.
There's a few others. You definitely missed astrology in there.
I actually had it written down, but I just forgot. Like, I should have read it instead of just going off my brain. Like,
no, it was beautiful. I think people could get overwhelmed if they hear the list of things I do, but I'm old. I'm going to be 64 years old this year, and yeah, I mean, I think I still look pretty good for the age. I attribute that to yoga, breathing, nature, going out in nature, exercising, definitely spending time with people that I love and that I trust, and laughing with them as often as possible. That is huge. You know, clean living makes a big difference in one's life, and being honest with yourself about what you're doing. And then also taking breaks, taking breaks with the patterns in your eating, making sure you're sleeping well, because sleep is definitely the best monitor for your health. I really, truly believe that, because I see that in myself. If I'm stressed out, I'm not sleeping. I'm writing something in my head, or I'm pacing in my head, trying to think of how I'm going to handle it. And if we're piled on with that kind of stress, how can you possibly sleep? But then there's digestion. People call it diet, but I think it's better to call it, how are you digesting? Because different people can eat and consume different things and still be sleeping well, feeling energized, looking young. But when we're really talking about the 3 pillars of health, it's lifestyle, diet, and sleep, rest, how you're resting.
Absolutely. And just,
those are the things that
you
will
mentioned
keep you
health and fitness, and what I love, because we obviously know each other, is seeing you on your roller skates. And I think, like, you said your age, and it's like, but it's fantastic. And I see you flying along. I mean, I made a joke that, you had your little lights and everything. Do you identify as a bicycle? But it's fantastic, to see that.
I just ordered some light up wheels for outdoor so that my skates will light up too. I'm super psyched about that. Yeah, I wear a little bike light because I live in the heat of Florida, and nighttime is quieter on the street. There's some street lights where I live, but it's good to have something flashing so somebody at a distance can see me. That was hilarious. I think I identify more as a scooter than a bike.
Have you always, because I mean, like just through our conversations, you're very interested in health and obviously the yoga and everything. But Have you been like that all your life? When did it kind of start? I suppose let's kind of go into your journey of how you actually started looking after yourself so well.
Well, I was born into a family that, as cooks in the 60s, were using a lot of the things they were being told to use, like canned vegetables, frozen food. And I didn't really love most of what they were cooking. And when I was very young, I became hooked on, they would buy frozen spinach, and I, with a little bit of cream in it. And I was living on that. I figured if Popeye could do it and he was so strong, maybe that's what I should be eating. Honestly, this is, but I loved the flavor. Later, when I started eating at Indian restaurants, I realized that was a dish. It's either called sag or palak, depending on the region in India. And it would be made with paneer, which is a type of farmer cheese. So I thought, wow, that makes sense. Because when I was a kid, I lived on that. I just wanted that, maybe with some pasta or rice, or just alone. I remember many, many times learning how to take the frozen pouch, put it in hot water, and make my own dinner. And I was less than 8 years old. I probably was 6 when I figured out how to do that. They made a lot of meat dishes that I didn't care for. And I became vegetarian at an early age just because of that. I just didn't eat the meat that was being offered to me. And I was vegetarian the first time for 27 years. So that was a long stint of vegetarianism. I was vegan for many, many years. But then when I started studying Ayurveda, the sister science, one of the 2 sister sciences to yoga, I became aware that maybe vegan isn't the greatest thing for my body. I'm not saying it's not for everybody else's body. You have to make your own choices. You have to learn. Remember what I said, through your lifestyle, through your what we call diet, which is really what you're choosing to put into your body to burn as fuel, and through your sleep. These are the 3 ways to monitor your level of happiness and wellness. And so veganism wasn't really working for me. And then I've tried different programs, by different people about, eat this, don't eat that. And truly, you have to experiment to figure out what works for you. I've gone back into eating some fish, but now with the state of the oceans, I'm wondering, is this really what I want? I did, as a little child, besides the spinach, what I really loved was lamb chops. I loved lamb. And that was pretty much the only meat my family could get me to eat. Other than maybe a chicken soup. I didn't really want the flesh so much. So yeah, I've been back to eating that. I'm not identifying as a vegan anymore. And but I do eat mostly plant-based. And then Jyotisha is the other sister to Ayurveda and yoga, which is astrology. And I see so many people leaving this out of the equation. Sure, yoga came into this country, way back. We can track it even into the 40s, probably even earlier, when first yogis came over. But the ones that gained recognition were more in the 40s on. And they saw an opportunity to use the asana, which are the postures of yoga, as an exercise program and a way to earn a living. So they named it yoga. But yoga equals meditation. Yoga's for the mind. It's Ayurveda that's for the body. So in the body of information of Ayurveda is where we find what type of breathing practices are best for my nature, because we divide people up by nature. So think of it this way. Can a tiger change its stripes? No. You can't tell a tiger, be a vegetarian. You shouldn't tell your cat to be a vegetarian, or your dog. That's not their nature, right? So you have to first get in touch with your nature. In my second book, Unfolding Happiness, there's a great quiz that you can take to determine the nature you came into this life with and then where you're at right now. So you need that cross comparison. So if we're only saying, oh, because that person's heavy or looks obese, they must be tamasic. No, that's incorrect. That would be that tamas is maybe not in harmony. Their true nature could be pitta. It could be vata. These are the other two natures, and we have combinations of them creating 9 different types. So it could be pitta vata. It could be vata tamas. You see what I'm saying?
And I've heard,
then
sorry to interject, but I've heard that
oh no, interject, please.
They can check with the blood, because I remember that's why I stopped eating pork. I remember watching something and it was showing how pork was actually very bad for the body, and by a blood test. And I was thinking, like, can they, because most people, are they really in tune with their body that they know, okay, like lamb chop, whatever, that something is fueling me and not making me sluggish? But can a blood test that actually tell you, hey, you should be eating A, B, C? And I mean, I'm obviously without all the pesticides and all the crap that they're injecting into the animals, but if you can get it healthy, organic, natural, which is very hard these days.
Yes, that is true. Blood testing, I think there's other ways to scan bodies that are more accurate. And it's unfortunate we don't see them being available to us, that they are shunned and pushed away. A blood chemistry test or any fluid test is only going to find what you're aiming it to find. So you already have to imagine what you're looking for. Therefore, are we seeing more information about parasites showing up in news flashes and ads? Yes, that is showing up more. The first time I studied, now adding to the list of what Ambika Devi does is holistic health. I taught at the university level for 21 years. And what I learned, having worked in clinics, having taught people to work in clinics, be clinicians, having written opinions for courts as to whether someone should receive more treatment or not. Yes, I've done all that at a professional level. I wrote part of a code of ethics for the National Bodywork Organization. I was a tester for the previous organization in the US to say, yes, you could be a massage therapist, or no, you need to study this some more. But we never really touched on parasites. And then the holistic community started to. It created a lot of supplements with herbs. These were used. Come on, if you've owned a pet, have you owned a pet? I'm sure you've owned a pet, right? Did you worm your pet? Did your vet tell you to worm your pet? How many times a year? Twice a year, right? Spring and autumn. When I grew up, I was on a horse farm with a max of 7 horses, a small horse farm with 2 dogs and 7 cats. We wormed those animals twice a year. And I remember being a little kid going up to the vet when he was worming one of the horses and saying, can you do me? And he said, what? I said, well, if you're worming them, and he had explained what that was for, why am I not needing this? That sent me on a quest. When did I start this? I was a little kid. I mean, by the time I was 13, I was studying reflexology from somebody who was 18 who had studied. And I went on to get certified in that. I've been certified in so many things. I mean, it's in a file cabinet. There's no room on the walls for all these certificates. And I knew at an early age that this was something I wanted to do. As soon as I figured out a way to do it, I started doing it. And as I figured out better ways to do it, I continue to do that. Now we are wondering and curious about viruses, right? So the unfortunate thing about those is they don't go away. They live in your joints. So we have to learn ways to deal with that, to keep our own immunity and our wellness level high enough to be able to deal with that. It is stress that will kick it up for sure. So maybe stop watching the news. That could help. But certainly what you're putting in your mouth. I worked in gyms when I was younger. When I went to art school, that was the first time I went to university. I got a degree in fine art and I got a license to teach. So I did a dual degree, and I roller skated everywhere in the city. I was working at a health club. I was one of the first aerobics instructors in Philadelphia, from the first team that started it in Philadelphia. And I became really interested because, you know, you work with somebody who's really buff and shredded, and I learned to teach and coach Nautilus equipment, weightlifting on Nautilus. We had professional weightlifters that came in the gym. I used to train them on Nautilus, and I taught yoga and I taught dance aerobics at that club. And I learned even more. I started learning more and becoming even more fascinated with what I'm going to call it diet. But remember, when I say the word diet, everybody, it means what you're putting in your mouth. Okay. And also how you're bathing your body and treating it externally, because the integument, the skin system, skin, nails, and hair all absorb water. So if you're not bathing in clean water, guess what? Water is one of the 7 ways you can pick up parasites. You can pick it up from food, from the air, from your pets, from handshaking, from any kind of kissing, sexual contact. You can pick these things up. So it's not just an STD you should be concerned with, because you're picking up all kinds of stuff. And now we know, okay, now we're calling gut biome. You know, those are actually critters that live in you. You know, these bacteria are considered something not part of your body that lives in your body, right? So we have to watch it with terminology, especially when it comes to wellness. And over the years of working in holistic health, I started realizing the talking that I was doing was helping people more than the hands-on work I was doing, even with acupuncture, with massage therapy, with reflexology, with herbal recommendations, all of it. I realized, wait a minute, I think the talking is really shifting people, because I could tell them to change a habit, but just giving that to them on a slip of paper wasn't going to help them change the habit. I had to work with them more as a counselor. There was a point where I considered becoming a psychologist. But honestly, Roy, being an astrologer and doing the work I've done, because I have worked on psychic lines since phones had curly cords, and I had no idea who I was picking up the phone to talk to. I had to sit there, wait for the phone to ring. And look, 98% of the people that come to me were asking about relationships. So I started also learning at a much earlier age that the way we're handling our relationships to other people also reflects on our stress levels and health. And I started working for the most recent company because through the years I've worked for many different companies doing this, and I can't give health or legal information, but I'll tell you, the relationship information I'm giving to people, I can tell by what their feedback is that it's helping them. It's not just helping the idea of maybe missing an ex, which is a top topic, but is also helping them feel more at peace and loving themselves, which I think all of the holistic arts are really trying to help us with. To just be at peace with accepting ourselves as we are and the world as it is.
Excellent. So, like you've touched on a load of different things, and you mentioned
I know.
the gut, because I've read The Good Gut, and it was saying about, I don't know, is it 1800 or 1800? I think 1800, and with all the antibiotics, that it's killing a load of the good things. So
it's with thousands.
Yeah. So with 18,000 down to 12,000 or whatever, but with the parasites, because I went away and I used like a frequency device. I went to somebody else and they tested me, and then through the frequencies they're killing. But is there something that we can be eating that will actually get rid of it? Because it seems like we all have parasites, and you hear stories of people.
Oh, come on.
Parasites
They live in your eyebrows. We hear about it in our sheets in our bed. Where do they come from? Who else is in your bed? It's your bed, Come on, people. We are a host to many different things. Yes, there are plenty of herbal choices one can make, and they're not that hard to find. And there's all kinds of health gurus out there trying to sell you their program. If you want to know what I use, message me through my website. I'll tell you there. But and also the things I've tried. There are products that are out there, Roy, like for little kids. For some reason, we notice it more in children. Like, for instance, lice outbreaks. That is a parasite, right? So there are salons that will do head washes and take care of that for the child and the family. And then, you have to wash all your sheets and things in hot water and, to get rid of it. And there are worming substances that you can drink that are made for little kids. It's common. We talk about it in kids. So it goes back to that conversation with a veterinarian. Like, I still want to wonder, why is this not a normal practice? Why are we not taught this as children? I'll tell you, if you have a huge level of parasites, you're not going to be able to meditate. It's not going to happen. I don't care what method you use. If your body is disturbed and not in a harmonious place, you can't. You might think you can do some breathing that'll get you high for a little bit. Yeah, there's breathing exercises. You hold your breath long enough, you're going to get high. It's just the way your breathing works and your brain. But as far as a long term and being able to get up off the cushion or off the yoga mat and walk out in the world in the state of meditation, you're not going to be able to do it if you're stressed out by any of these factors. And that is what meditation ultimately is trying to teach us. Sure, we're learning how to sit up straight, close our eyes, focus on our breath. These are the directions in the ancient writings about how to meditate. But how do you do it? Still, people are hung up on it. How do you quiet the mind? How do you get all those thoughts that keep popping in to shut up? Do you think even the highest meditators don't have thoughts that come in? Do you, Roy? Do you think they've actually canceled them out?
A lot less.
They still are fed the sub-vocalization from the mind. So let's talk about the mind for a second. The mind is a bundle of thoughts. That's what the mind is, a bundle of thoughts. And it feeds us stuff from externally. And that washes across, I'm going to call the inside of the forehead the dark screen. Because when you close your eyes, it's as if you're in a dark movie theater, right? Tell me, close your eyes and look at your forehead. It's a dark screen. And the thoughts fly across the dark screen. The difference between a seasoned meditator and a beginner meditator is the seasoned meditator observes the thought. They have a reaction because they're human. And the first reaction is free because you're human. You get to have a reaction. The difference between the seasoned meditator and the beginner is they then back up as the witness and choose to not re-react to it. What causes stress is re-reaction, re-reaction, re-reaction. That is what creates a thought loop. In a session with clients, I can take them through the process of identifying the most prominent thought loop with the most prominent thoughts that are like spokes on that wheel that triggers. Any of those spokes could trigger the wheel and the loop, and then they can't get off. And the only way to do this is through talking. Acupuncture wouldn't do it. Massage therapy wouldn't do it. Teaching meditation doesn't do it. So the first thing I like to do with somebody who's having a really hard time with meditation is see if they would like to get rid of a thought loop and then take them through that process.
like you mentioned the water earlier, because that's another thing, like all the different toxins, like even the soap, the toothpaste that you use. Like if you've got all these toxins, they're affecting your mind as well. And like even makeup, I often say, like, are you dying to look beautiful? Because when you look at the ingredients that people are putting on their face, yeah, they're trying to look as nice as they can to go to work or go outside or whatever. But when you ask people what's actually in it, none of them know. And I mean, I've had one that was actually talking about on the Awakening show, and it's frightening. Like, and like, if everybody, even aftershave, like once I learned all the toxins and these things, I don't use aftershave anymore. Like I kind of eliminate all these different things, and people just say, "Oh, I'm wearing a nice thing," or they're spraying themselves without even knowing what it is. And I think it's a combination. Like my mind is totally still. When I'm doing things, I'm able to do it. I sleep like a baby. And I think it's just a combination. It's not a magic pill. It's just conscious of every single thing that you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that is diet. Every single thing you're doing. You just nailed it. I question what people are putting in their washing machines and their dryers. You know, that stuff, if that's not ruining people's ability to have good cognition, I don't know what is. Artificial fragrances, whoa, those are damaging.
Dishwasher, everything. And I'm just
Yeah,
curious because with the clothes, because this is one that I'm conscious of as well. There's a frequency in everything. And
yes.
are they giving us the crappy clothes to have the bad frequency? Is it what clothes should be actually be wearing to have the correct frequency?
I don't know the motives behind what people do other than making money. I really don't know. I I wish I could say there was a sector of humanity that encompassed all the different avenues from food to clothing to media that actually was for the good of all. Uh, I don't know who they are other than little shining flickers of light out there in the darkness. I know that I do my best, but I can't really speak for everybody else. And this I'll tell you something about your body and what you're putting on your skin. Remember earlier I said the integumentary system, that is the largest organ in your body. Skin, hair, and nails. Largest organ. We're not taught that as little children. Maybe you were in school in earth science if you had a really clever teacher, but I wasn't. I didn't learn this until I was studying massage therapy in my 20s. And if you're not feeling great, then we need to talk about not only what's in your bathroom, but what's in your kitchen. And if you are, I mean, would you use face oil to saute your next meal? No, that's gross, right? Like some fake fragrance face oil, saute up some nice veggies or you know, make a salad dressing with it. No, you wouldn't do that. So if you're not going to eat it, don't put it on your body. Period. You don't want your hair to fall out. You don't want your skin to look bad. If you're not going to eat it, then don't use it. You know, I know a lot of my female clients, oh, not clients, but a lot of my female colleagues that speak on stage wear makeup. I will not. I don't care. I'm not wearing makeup right now. I'm not using a filter right now. It's a shame that we put this on people. Okay, I've been in film. I've had to get made up for a film. I run to get that stuff off of me afterwards. You know, and fortunately, the times I have been forced into it, it has been better product, but I would be careful with any moisturizer or shampoo or makeup that's just coming off the shelf from a grocery store or a drugstore, because I question what are the ingredients. If you're not going to eat it, don't wear it. So when a company does show you that they're eating it, you know, then I would trust it, but hopefully they're proving it with something that's not honey with some food coloring in it or something like that. You know, they're being honest with you.
I've an app that tells me what's actually in the products that I'm buying. And normally if it's processed, like if there's a few ingredients, you're better off just buying raw ingredients and then you're safe enough. Or, you know, like organic meat.
We hope. But then, but Roy, what about all this here where I live in Florida? They wrap everything in plastic, even even a cucumber. Like, I don't, what? And you pop that open, there's microplastic flying around. It might not go in your food because you're going to wash it, but you just breathed it in, right? As you're popping open a lid.
The trickery
and
is
what
there.
about the holographic stickers? You talked about frequency. Anything holographic can be programmed with a frequency. Let me say that again. Anything holographic can and likely is programmed with a frequency. Think about it. Why? Why did they go from paper stickers to holographic stickers? Answer me that.
Don't know. And
I don't know either. I'm not drawing a conclusion here, but I just want us to just go,
No, exactly. Like I try to eat as bio organic as I can. So there's one shopping center that's near me. I mean, obviously if you go to a farmer's market, but even there's trickery there, but I bought carrots, bio carrots that weren't from the farmer. I just bought them because it was convenient, but they were, and I could see these weren't good. So I just dumped them out in the garden. That was last August. They're still looking at me. I bought farmers ones and ate them. They were lovely. And there was a few left. I could see they disintegrated within kind of like 2 weeks or whatever.
Oh yeah. And we've seen that. Yeah. We've seen it in like burger buns, right? From fast food. They'll just last for years and years and years.
Like when you get fast food, you kind of, as people know, I still don't understand why people would go to the likes of McDonald's or any of these, but basically we kind of know that that's poisons and toxins and it's more of a convenience. But when you're buying bio, and I heard it's the same with chicken, that basically they're still in the warehouse, they open the door for an hour, and if they don't go out, that's their tough, and that's it for the whole week, and that's classed as bio. So there's so all I say is go to the farmer that you know. I mean, I get my eggs from a farmer, if it's possible.
Not everybody has that convenience, I mean, and a rule from Ayurveda is it's not what you're eating, it's what your food was eating. Right? Yeah. So we might be getting something that's labeled organic, but then are you reading the ingredients of what they were fed? Whether it's a carrot or an animal product, an egg, or, meat of some sort. So we can be fooled in between there. What was fed to the food?
I mean, like we've been sharing pictures with the chemtrails that's going everywhere. So at this stage, I mean, I use an ozone generator to try to clean out as much as I can with filtered water. Does it help? Not sure, but I know that it's better than not doing it.
Oh, ozonated water will definitely help. I personally have a carbon filter that filters every water coming into the house. So the water I bathe in is like a Brita filter, and then I run that water through a big UV light. So my bathing water or, kitchen sink water is better than most people's drinking water. And then, of course, for my drinking water, I've got RO filters and another UV light. So am I hyper? Maybe. But I'm going to be 64 and I roller skate. So there,
But I mean, that's the thing. You make a conscious effort. You're conscious of it. And just to not overwhelm people as well. What I decided is when I realized, I just said, all right, this month I'm going to change this. I'm going to change. Like I've gone to the stage now where I have natural stuff for the washing machine, the dishwasher, everything. And it didn't happen overnight. It was just kind of slowly. And there was things I wasn't conscious of either. And just being aware of it and just kind of surrounding yourself with people of the same mindset. And they kind of guide you, towards the light to stay young. But what I've noticed is the friends that I've got, like you look fantastic for your age. I have another person I do the live podcast with her. She's 66. She looks amazing. A friend, he's 59. they all look incredible. So, and then I see some people, they're pushing a certain lifestyle, but not doing, and they look 10, 20 years older. So I think you just kind of watch the people that look fantastic and ask them questions.
Yeah. Well, a professor of mine when I was in art school, when we were asking about how to do different things, his advice was go to the person that you see that's doing it the way you hope to do it one day and ask them questions until they say, hey, kid, I told you everything I know.
Brilliant. I love that one. That's a good
That's
one.
it. That's it. You see somebody doing it, but then we can see people with plastic surgery or filters. I mean, there's so many things that can mask reality now. Some of the filters blow my mind. They completely blow my mind. So how do we know what we're being fed is reality unless we can go poke it ourselves,
And I think this, you don't hear many people saying this, but the people that are using these filters, to whether they're using it on kind of dating app or just on TikTok and just not letting people know who they really are, I reckon they're actually depressing themselves because they're seeing somebody they want to be instead of just showing their true self.
That goes back to meditation and accepting, adapting, and accommodating. That is what we have to remember. That is yoga. That is the true philosophy of yoga. And yoga equals meditation. That's what I want you to understand, everybody, that the asana, the postures, and all the other information is there as a body of science to teach you how to be the witness of life and to become non-reactive. That's what it's all about. And so it's not just being able to sit on a pillow or go, look, some people really like festivals, right? Do you like festivals? Do you go to them? I don't really care for them.
I don't like living in a tent, put it that way. I prefer, at this stage of my life, I prefer a nice hotel. Even, I don't need a 5-star resort. I just like, I don't like
clean is nice.
Clean, yeah.
I mean, I'm short. I'm only 5 feet tall. So the first thing about crowds is it freaks me out because everybody's taller. And if it starts getting tight, I feel very claustrophobic. So I don't like that. I too like to keep a clean body. So sweaty people who haven't bathed in days, jumping around in mud is not enticing to me. Music, I was a musician. I worked as a professional musician for years. I didn't really care to play at festivals. I was always happy to hang out in the green room tent and not go in the crowd. Not my thing. That's me. Okay. You might like it. I do see that there are distinctly two groups of people that have to be in crowds, and they were really damaged by the lockdown because they couldn't do that. And people who don't like to be in crowds, which I'm a part of, who were blissed out. I don't have to go out. I can work on, I wrote a book. I wrote my 6th book. I made art. I made videos. I learned how to edit videos. I did lots of really cool stuff that I had wanted to do since 2016 because of the lockdown. It's not my fault. I didn't ask for it to happen. I mean, I didn't want to have to do some of the things we were forced into doing. But I have to say, as an introvert, or let's call me an extroverted introvert, because yes, I can do this and this doesn't freak me out, but I'm sitting in my house. This is my desk, right? I'm happy. I'm comfortable. I have what I want to eat and drink, and I feel peaceful doing it, but I don't care for that. And I think we need to understand that, there are different, that goes back to the different natures. Some really need that public feeling of being around all these people. And I felt so sad for them when we were oppressed and we weren't allowed to,
And because you mentioned something there, because you're like me. I mean, I play football with my son. I'm just constantly doing different things. And I think it keeps us young. We're loving life, just constantly trying different things. But sometimes you see people, they're in their 40s and they act like they're 70. And I think you have to be constantly creative, painting, doing music, whatever, but just don't just chug along in life. It has such, because once you love life, you love getting up in the morning. It doesn't matter whether it's Monday or Sunday. It's just, you just love life. And, oh, what can I get done today? What can I do that will serve me?
We're creative beings. We are co-creators with the divine. However you translate that sentence is up to you, everybody. If you believe in God or you believe in nature or whatever, that's fine. But with that energy, nature is the biggest creator, right? We can notice this in springtime, which it is right now, right? We're coming into spring. We're starting to see on social media, crocuses and flowers and just beginning to pop up in certain places, or snow melting. And that is a creative force of nature. Nature doesn't ever stop. It doesn't stop creating. And here we pop into these bodies, and what's our job is to be co-creators. And also being a yogi, having studied and still studying through an ashram that I am connected with, we are taught no idle time. No idle time. And if you don't know how to do something, find somebody who knows how to do it and get them to teach you, which was similar to what my professor from art school said. And that when you stop learning, you stop living. I live by these. I always want to learn something new. I always want to experiment or create something. And when I don't, I know that I'm not happy and harmonious. That is a signal that something's off in my lifestyle or my diet.
Brilliant. So I know that we discussed previously, before we were started recording, we were just talking about the way you hold your hands and everything, because there's a lot of trickery, and plus we've kind of seen, I suppose, people saying it's like the 666 and stuff like that, and you explained it beautifully to me, and I think not everyone perhaps knows, so I'd like if you could kind of explain it a bit in more detail.
Yes. We can see information, and Roy, what you're talking about are called hastas. And hastas are hand positions. And then when the body is involved with a hand position, it's called a mudra. Or in English, people say mudra. So hastas we can do with a single hand or two hands, but then if it is something involving the whole body, it could just be you're changing the position of your hands, but then that's considered a mudra. So these words get a little bit confused. It has started to be called mudra to just make a hand position, but that truly means your entire body. So if you're sitting cross-legged, making a hand gesture, okay, I guess you could call that a mudra. Now, if you know anything about palmistry, you know that they're Why not?
I can give somebody a high five. That's as far as it goes.
From palmistry, which is also that is the original chiromancy. That is where astrology started. A lot of times I'll tell someone I'm an astrologer and they'll shove their hand in my face and I'll say, no. I read from your date, time, and location of birth. Now palmistry is different. They're a little bit different, but they interrelate. Palmistry is the most ancient art of astrology and chiromancing, because each area in the hand represents a planet. So this chunky part under your thumb is Venus, and then over here under your pinky is the moon, and the fingers represent different planets. And I'll share an image with you all so you can look at it and take a picture if you want. Now, from yoga and the hand gestures used for meditation, there are meanings superimposed over these planetary meanings, so that the thumb becomes the guru the teacher. And the index finger is the ego of the student, so your ego. And what we do is bend the index finger so it's touching the center of the palm, not the tip. So if you're touching the tip, you're not doing this correctly. You're making a mudra that has nothing to do with yoga. So to make what's called the wisdom mudra, or actually hasta, these three fingers are lined up and together, there's no space. And the index finger is bowing down to the wisdom of the teacher, touching the center of the pad. So then each of these three fingers represent the three qualities of nature. Tamas is the inert, the pinky. The mind is the ring finger. And then the intellect is the index finger. So we put them together. We group the three qualities of nature together and then touch the center of the thumb. Now, whether you're holding it this way, or that way means something different. Let's not get into it. Let's just call this resting in the lap with both hands, thumb pads to index fingertip. Then that is the wisdom mudra. Nothing else is.
Fascinating. And what's the teachings then? Because on whether you keep your eyes closed or open, because you hear a lot of people now and they're kind of saying, oh, you have your eyes open because you're kind of embracing nature and everything, and then there's other people keep your eyes closed.
Care.
That you go, yeah. So,
I don't care.
It's whatever you want.
Ask me about that. This is not it. This is it. This is what this is not it. This is it.
But in meditation, forget about the hand thing. But as far as
meditation, no, meditation is silent, quiet, shutting out the world so that you can watch the dark screen of the forehead. If you're listening to a guided meditation, yes, I know my track is the top track on the meditation podcast, but the truth is that's entertainment. Can it trip you into the state of meditation? Yes, it can. But meditation is a state of being. It's not an action. Can entertainment trip you there? Yes. Can exercise make you go there? Absolutely. Can lying on the ground listening to the meditation podcast do it? Yes. But that is not the act of meditating. Meditation is when you disappear, the body is fully relaxed, the mind connection is aware and alert. So in yoga nidra or guided meditation, if you fall asleep, you're not meditating. You know that, right? If the person next to you, if you're in a group class, is snoring, they're sleeping, right? They're sleeping. We know this. If you're listening to one of the podcasts to go to sleep, then that's what it was. That's similar to hypnosis. Hypnosis is a way to get you into that state, especially with things like, I don't know if you're familiar with Ericksonian techniques. That's where NLP came from, neuro-linguistic programming. So being able to get you into the meditative state where, as the practitioner, I could ask you questions and you can feed back. That type of level of hypnosis is actually getting you into the witness state. So testing things out with meditation and techniques over the years, because I've been researching it for so long, I was given a technique to use to test out by my professor. And because after I got my master's degree in yoga, I went on to research meditation. I'm still researching it for a PhD. Will I ever get it? I don't know. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter, because I've learned so much and I feel like I can share such good information with all of you. But you learn about, or maybe you've seen it, I don't know, I used to watch Kung Fu, the TV show way back in the 70s, and the monks would be meditating, and maybe you've seen a monk get smacked with a piece of bamboo while they were meditating, which doesn't seem like a very nice thing to do, but it is testing your ability to get back into the witness state. Cold water can be thrown on you while you're meditating to see if you can get back in the meditative state. It's a test that certain schools will do. So I didn't want to throw water on people or hit them with bamboo. But what I did do was I took a metal trash can lid and a drumstick and whacked the heck out of it to make a big sound. So I taught this technique, and I went over to a student in the workshop, and we had agreed that it would be okay if I wanted to do something like this, of course, before I just suddenly stunned the poor creature. And I called his name gently, and then I called it louder. Then I yelled it. Then I went right up to him, right in his face, and yelled his name, still deep in the state of meditation. So I picked up the trash can lid and whacked it. Didn't do a thing. So I thought, wow, this definitely worked for him. He was able to get into that deep state where you really shut out the rest of the world. If you can't sit down in a busy intersection and really get in that state, then are you really able to drop in to the state of meditation? It's a state of being. There are many, many, many ways to trick and trigger and trip the body and mind connection into it. Notice how I say mind connection. I don't ever act like the mind's inside of you. That's just your brain receiving information. So as soon as we get the sense that we can really understand that the mind is external, then we can understand that we can tame it. That's why I call myself a mind tamer.
And with, I suppose, what we've seen in the last 20, 30 years with the phones, like now people can't go 5 minutes without just kind of having me time. And I don't think that's probably one of the main reasons why people can't just kind of find calm, and sleeping problems as well. And I'd like to just delve into that as well, because I know you have a fantastic course on that.
Yeah, my sleep course and sleep envy. I got the name because I was once an extra in an Adam Sandler movie. And it was the filming that I was a part of. It was for Jack and Jill, the movie. I was just an extra. You're not going, if you can find me anywhere in there, I'm impressed. The only shot I know for sure I was in, I was like a tiny, tiny dot on, in the big screen in a crowd of over 100 people on a cruise ship. So I had a bunk with somebody on the cruise ship. I had a roommate. It wasn't bad. It was a brand new cruise ship. I can't complain. But I noticed the very first night, she would sit in the bed, lay back, say goodnight, and as soon as she hit the pillow, she was gone. And I would lay there in bed watching her, mystified, and she would not move the entire night. Now, when I first sleep in a new place on the first night, it can sometimes be a challenge. I have learned to take a tea with me when I travel that helps, or even use something like kava, because that is a thing for me. A new environment, it's not totally dark, the air's not the right temperature. There are many things. The blanket doesn't have enough weight. I need these things for me. And it never left my consciousness about this woman being able to just go and not move the entire night. And I became envious. So that's how I got the title for the course, and sleep envy. And then I also realized, having worked with so many clients over the years, that maybe what bothers me doesn't bother them. I need it pitch black. I used to work as a musician. I would come home at 3, 4 in the morning. I would try and race the sun home so I could fall asleep while it was still dark. Well, I got blackout curtains. Then it didn't matter what time I got home. Hopefully the sunlight wasn't getting in my eyes as I was driving home, and that I black out the room and I could sleep and get a decent night's or early morning sleep, a decent length of time. And then the temperature thing, having been through menopause, I do realize I need it colder now to sleep than I used to. And then diet, maybe eating chocolate or caffeine isn't helping. And then looking at what time of day. So in the course, I talk about and teach you all the different methods, not just what works for me, but what I've learned from my clients. Because I think as a coach, we learn our best tools from our clients, from them giving us feedback and us learning and then helping them through it. Then we can see, wow, this one method really worked for them. So maybe this is something I can share with other people and it will help them also. Digestion makes heat. We have to remember that. We need heat to digest food. You're going to hear all kinds of, your poop should float, your poop should sink, floating poop is too fatty, this and that. You know what you feel like after you get up. I will go with the equation of if it's really hard to wipe off, then it's not so healthy in your digestion. But you can see if you're eating too much grain. A brilliant colonic therapist taught me this about, I'm getting into poop now.
I was going to say you're talking shit, Ambika.
But that does tell you a lot about your happiness, your harmony, and your diet and your wellness. But she taught me that if you eat a lot of grain, which, hey, some people can really burn that, even if you're doing keto, you should still have carb days, your body should learn how to burn all of it. But if you're staying stuck with a certain pattern of eating, then you're staying stuck in a certain pattern of digestion. Repeat this mantra with me, everyone. All change is good. You have to remember, you have to keep switching it up. Because if you get stuck in a pattern, then everything gets lazy, your cells, your body, your mind. So she taught me that if it's a plop looking like a cow patty, you ate a lot of grain. Oh, that makes sense. It makes sense that if it's heavier material, whether it's toxic from metals or maybe a ton of protein, that's probably going to sink. And if it's a lot of fat that you're releasing, because poop is what you're releasing, what you don't need anymore, then it's probably going to float. Lighter diet, probably more floaty. Heavier diet, probably sinking. It's pretty easy chemistry when it comes down to it. Color matters. I'm trained as an acupuncturist. I'm not using a license in the US, but I did teach when I was teaching holistic health. I taught shiatsu and I taught oriental pathology from traditional Chinese medicine. And the color of everything matters. The color, maybe you know this about mucus from having a cold. You've seen green, you've seen yellow, you've seen white, you've seen gray. These all relate to meridians in the body. But what about your poo? What about your urine? It could have a tint. It could be more orange. That could show pitta. I can cross-relate it to Ayurveda really easily. We can see fire, we can see water, we can see earth, we can see air. And then when we look at the 5 elements as per traditional Chinese medicine, which is where acupuncture comes from, we can see those 5 elements used there as well. And then we can start to notice flavor. A very white or clear looking mucus with a metallic taste in your mouth, that's a metal imbalance right there. These are disharmonious signals. But what I want you to think about, everybody, is not trying to get everything like a seesaw balanced. There's no such thing. It's more like a scale where it's got a pendulum. You've got to read it on the swing. You can't look for a stagnant balance point. And think of it more like music, like harmony. It's either harmonic or disharmonic. That's how I want you to start thinking about you and your wellness. And this will help you with meditation. This will help you find more of a peaceful state. A trigger we didn't mention earlier, Roy, is breathing. The breathing exercises. And I do see a lot of people teaching yes, they are pranayamas from the ancient techniques. Yes, they are rebranded with new names. Maybe even using names from other techniques that existed to perhaps get you a little high. If you're breathing in and out really fast and pumping, you're going to churn up fire. If you're using it in and out your mouth, you'll churn up a lot more fire. So maybe you're already too pitta, too fire prone. maybe what you're doing is just throwing more fuel into a fire that's already burning too hot. You have to, again, this goes back to the Ayurvedic test in my book, Unfolding Happiness, of checking to see what is your true nature and where are you at harmonically right now, because you might be practicing things that are harming you. They're not helping, and you're not feeling more peace, and you are more restless.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that, because I got an electromagnetic frequency device, and I was shocked, kind of, the electric oven, because I've got a gas cooker, but and it's like, whoa, even when you're not using it, like when it's not turned on, just the light. Same with the fridge. And it's like, whoa, these things are toxic, obviously near Wi-Fi. But one of the things that I started, obviously don't have a phone near your bed, but because most people have a lamp, the wire is full of power, and they just turn off the lamp. I took lamps out of my bed. I sleep brilliant. I think that's a major thing, because people don't do that. You have power next to your head, even though you've the light turned off. And if you want to have a light, you can, but plug it out of the wall. And I think that has a big impact as well.
Something we need to remember about electricity. I was taught acupuncture by an electrician, believe it or not. He was an electrician before he was an acupuncturist. And the way he explained yin and yang energy is through electricity. And we have to remember that not only is there always force in something that's plugged into a wall, but that's also a conduit drawing energy. This is something I don't think we pay attention to. I mean, could we really shut it all off? Even if I shut the main breaker off in my house, I'm still picking up stuff from the atmosphere, from power lines a mile or two away, from my next door neighbors on either side. Can we escape it? I mean, how do we know what's really being broadcast off of anything? Everything's broadcasting a frequency, including other human beings, right?
Yeah.
So we're picking up frequencies everywhere, from every scent, from every sound. Sound is vibration. It is measurable with the same system. Light is measurable with the same system. This is why things like a hologram, which can lock in light and image, is a very powerful little tool. Just those sequins. Those holographic sequins and stickers. I wonder, what are we doing to each other here on this planet? I just want us to all be happy and get along and be healthy and be in harmony with nature. So, that's my quest.
There's more and more people that are actually trying to achieve that. And I mean, obviously you're doing a lot for that. And I'm just constantly, at times, we there's a little cloud goes over our heads, but once you start looking for the lights, you'll see them. So I mean, that's all we can do. But Ambika, as always, thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. We have to get you back, because every time I'm talking to you, I realize you've done so many different things. But I know your website is there on the screen, but you might just let people know on where else they can find you.
Sure, for everybody just listening and not looking. My website is my name, Ambika Devi. So it's AMBIKA DEVI. I'll do it one more time. AMBIKA DEVI.com. And you can find my link tree with just linktree/my name also, and my YouTube. So easy enough. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, Roy. You have made not just my day, but probably my entire month. Easily. It's an honor. And wow, keep listening to Roy's podcast. If I'm not disrespecting guided meditation, if you're not sleeping, use it. It likely will help you get to sleep. It is a form of hypnosis, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I want you to understand that the true witness state is not just something we do when we're trying to fall asleep. It's something that we work towards participating in and practicing every second of every moment of every day.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Ambika. And I make sure all the links I'll put both on the audio and the video.
It's such a pleasure. Thanks.
So that's all for the meditation podcast. As mentioned, you'll find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. We're on BitChute and YouTube. And my coaching, along with my other 4 podcasts, can be found on bio.link/podcaster. Sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends. And if you get Ambika's books or her podcast as well, make sure you give her a 5-star rating. It really helps. Until next week, take care.